Okay, I have a guest with me today. I have Eddie Green. He does a podcast called Eddie Green 101, Terminator 101, and now his newest podcast, James Cameron 101. He also has a show on YouTube called No Fate But What We Stream. How you doing, Eddie?
I am great, Justin. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Thank you for coming on. So, first question I always ask everybody is, where did you grow up?
St. Augustine, Florida,
Awesome.
the oldest city in the country. That's what they say.
Really?
I don't. I
Did
mean, I assume they're not lying, but I don't know even know who they are. But
yeah,
yeah, apparently it's the oldest city in the U.S.
cool.
So
Did that
that's where I was
affect you
born.
in did that affect you in any way?
No, I don't really. No, 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 no. I think I was actually born at the same hospital that I remember my mom telling me that John Travolta had a kid at.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like the hospital has like a wall or something where there's photos of John Travolta on, and it's like that's one of the hallmarks of that particular hospital. I think it's called Flagler Hospital or
Mm.
something like that. But yeah, and then I grew up. So that's where I was born. So actually, hold on,
Mm.
let me backtrack here. I was born St. Augustine. I grew up in a little town called Palm Coast, Florida.
Cool.
So it's about, I don't know, 45 minutes south of St. Augustine.
Cool. Were you always interested in film?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it all really, I mean, I think it all started. My dad showed me a lot of Arnold movies. And so
Yeah.
I think that's why Terminator just kind of sticks to me. And I've always come back to it. And kind of, if you look at everything that you just listed there, Terminator, James Cameron, No Fate But What We Stream, it's really all tied back to that, connection, James Cameron, Arnold. So yeah, always loved films. I think my earliest memory of seeing a film is The Grinch with Jim Carrey.
Really?
Like I'm
Wow.
sure I saw movies before then, but that's my first kind of as far back as I can go in my head, remembering going to the theater, watching
Yeah.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
What was the first Arnold film that like really spoke to you?
Probably Batman and Robin.
Really?
Unfortunately, cue the wah,
Wow.
wah, wah.
Yeah. Do you still feel that same way now?
Oh yeah, I know. I love that movie. It's I think hold on, what did I say on another previous podcast years ago? I said it's maybe the worst way to get introduced to Arnold because it's or maybe it's the best way. I don't know how I feel about it now, but you'll never top a blue bald Arnold. It's
Yeah.
just I mean, it sticks and it's one heck of a film. It's definitely the I don't Batman Forever. I don't know which one's worse. I was gonna say it's the stinkiest, but maybe it's not. I don't know because it's got Arnold, but then you got
Yeah.
Jim Carrey in the other one, so I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you feel
Um,
about Batman and Robin?
I mean, it could have been so much better. I just wish like I know what Arnold can do if you push him in that direction. I'd be like, look, stop with the puns. We've got too much of that. Let's go deeper into some of the darker stuff here and show us a side of Arnold that we haven't seen before. Because I think he could have done that because he hints at it in that movie at points, and I'm just like they want a kids movie.
Right. Yeah, and that's I think that's out there that it was really just a you know
Yeah,
what hour and 45 2 hour long toy commercial. Um,
basically.
and I think going to the pun thing about Arnold, I think that's kind of what his career ended up being built on anyway, was just how
Mm,
many puns can we give or how many one-liners can we give Arnold because he doesn't have a really good uh he doesn't have really good acting ability first of all. Let's just
yeah,
be real. Let's call a spade a
yeah,
spade.
yeah,
Um and he has a really thick Austrian accent. So that truly limits him to what he can
yeah,
do. And it's amazing that he did become who he became.
yeah,
So I'm not taking that away from him, but it is. I think he was miscast as Mr. Freeze ultimately.
yeah.
I think somebody else should have played that role, and uh, I don't know. Maybe that's a hot take. Maybe I just PO'd
Yeah,
somebody.
they wanted Hopkins, I think they wanted Hopkins. They talked to Patrick Stewart. These were some of the people that were kind of pushed on him, but Joel Schumacher, he had his heart set on Arnold.
And they
That
probably
was
would have asked for less money too.
probably. Tell me, what specifically made you a fan of James Cameron?
What made me a fan? Well, Terminator, definitely. And then my favorite is Titanic.
Mm.
That is definitely the film that's his masterwork. And to me, it doesn't get any better than that. So, um, but what specifically, it's just,
Mm.
he's quality over quantity. And I think that's why I gravitate toward him. You look at some other, like Spielberg I mean, he's a goat for some obvious
Yeah,
reasons. But I think he has like 30 some odd films, and there's a lot of stinkers in there. And you look at a lot of directors, and they typically fall into that, category
yeah,
where they got a lot of stinkers. Personally, and I think if you could poll, anybody, I don't necessarily think Cameron has a stinker. You might not like it, but they aren't bad films if even if you don't like them. So,
agreed.
you know what I mean? They're masterfully done. They're just everything about them works, even if it doesn't work for you. It's not a I don't know, always from Steven Spielberg or whatever. It's yeah, quality over quantity.
I like that he takes his time. I mean, after Titanic, he said that it was Return of the King that like made him want to go back and make movies again. And then we, you know, 2009, we finally get Avatar. And I know some people don't like Avatar, but it is a good film. I mean, it might not have the zeitgeist memorability of like a Terminator or at Aliens, but it is a well-made film. Same thing with the sequel. I mean, he took his time to make those films, and I appreciate that. I agree with you. He doesn't really have any bad, unless you count like Piranha 2, The Spawning, but he he really
Which
didn't have much to do with that.
which I still will go to the grave saying it's better than Piranha 1. I don't know if you've seen both of them,
I've
but
never I've never seen either one of those.
so the first Piranha is, I think, more highly regarded. Um, but for me, the second one is where they start flying, and I think that works better for it. It's already an absurd
Yeah,
concept of killer piranhas, so
yeah,
why not make them fly and really own it? And that film owns it. So I will movie fight. I don't know if you're familiar with movie fights. I
mm,
I will movie fight anybody, which is better, Piranha 1 or Piranha 2. I'm team Piranha 2. And that's my James
yeah.
Cameron bias aside. That's I'm just I'm looking at the film. So
Could you ever see him going back and being like, you know what, I want to make another film like Piranha 2?
no, 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 no. He's gonna thankfully he's not gonna die doing Avatar. He's at least gonna give us, he's adapting Last Train from
Yeah,
Hiroshima. So just he has to find the time to film it. I don't know when that's gonna
yeah, I
be,
don't know.
but thank God we're not just gonna get endless Avatar.
Yeah, same here. I would love for him to come back to, I mean, he's writing the Terminator films, but it's like I feel like well, we're gonna get to that, when we talk about the Terminator films. One of the things I noticed about your podcast and from my research with you is you really have an eye of a filmmaker. Like you notice a lot of things about filmmaking. Is that something you've wanted to do? Are you a filmmaker? Are you in that realm?
Nope, nope. I think at one point I wanted to be an actor, and
Mm,
I did a lot of that in high school, a lot of musicals, plays, and still to this day, my mom always shout out, mom, hi. She always is like, "Don't you still want to do it? Don't you still love it?" And I love watching it, and I love kind of taking it in and uh, being a part of the audience. I don't necessarily want to do that anymore, but yeah, no, filmmaking, directing. Oh no, 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 no. I would never do that.
yeah,
No.
yeah. So so did you did plays? Did you have a specific discipline that you learned in acting? I'm just curious.
Discipline. I don't think I would say it's a discipline, but
Mm,
it's what got me through high school. It's what got me
mm,
through, because I always say I didn't go to school to learn. I went to school to act. That's
cool.
really where I was most happy. Um, and my different acting teachers and everything, what I learned from them, it's been so long. I don't know that I really can recall what I learned from them. They were just really, really awesome. I loved being around them, and I wish I was still in touch with some of those teachers, but unfortunately lost touch with them. So
Cool. So I was meaning more like because I'm an actor as well.
okay,
Like, did you study Meisner? Did you study Stanislavski? Did you study any of those masters? Or
nope.
okay, cool, cool.
Sorry,
Um, no, no, that no,
I don't want to
there's
lie
no
to you.
need to be
Like,
sorry.
yeah, no, no. I don't want to lie to you and be like, oh yes, 100%. The method, of course, the method. Yes.
Yes. And then I'll ask you specific questions.
Oh,
Be
no.
like, hey, be like, what is that?
So, like, for example, right? For example, one of the shows we did was To Kill a Mockingbird,
Hmm.
and I was cast as Atticus,
Oh
and
wow.
when I look back on it, because it was filmed and it's on YouTube, when I look back on it, literally, and I got praise, and it was just people being nice, because literally all I did was a almost verbatim copy of Gregory Peck. That's literally all I did. Like,
That's great.
and somehow my, I don't know, my director let it slide, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, if I were to do it today, I would definitely approach it differently. I wouldn't copy,
Mm,
but I think that's how I
mm,
felt back in 2011 is when I did that.
yeah.
So
So, hey, whatever works, at the end of the
yeah,
day in acting.
right, right.
Um, so how did you get involved with podcasting?
So that was a friend of mine. His name's Ben Bateman. He hosted on YouTube a show called Action Movie Anatomy. It was on Popcorn Talk Network, and I was a fan of the show. And one day he was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna be hosting something over on a platform called Anchor," and I was like, "Okay." He's like, "If you want to follow me over there, go ahead." So I downloaded it, and it was basically a way to do what he was promoting, listen to podcasts, but it was also a way to start your own podcast.
Mm,
And I was like, oh, you know what? That's pretty cool. I like doing the YouTube thing, but I'm kind of lazy. I don't like vlogging and editing and all that stuff. Maybe this will
mm,
be easier. I can just record my voice, talk about what I love, and put it out there. And at that time, it was like Snapchat, but with audio. So it was only available for 24 hours, and then everything would drop off. So there's a lot of stuff that I talked about that you can't listen to anymore. And then eventually it evolved, and you could create your own podcast. So I always credit Ben Bateman, because he's out in LA. He does red carpets, and he's an interviewer, and so I love what he did, and so he inspired me. So I always give credit to Ben Bateman. If it wasn't for him and Anchor, I don't know that I'd have this microphone, this pair of Joe Rogan headsets. So
what was it about podcasting that really spoke to you?
besides the lazy factor, it was just a lot
Yeah.
easier to just put it out there than to record yourself. It was. I think I realized that it was becoming very, very, very popular. This is 2016, 17, somewhere around
Mm,
there. So obviously Rogan, I love Joe Rogan. I love listening to his stuff, and then smaller podcasts. Um, yeah, it was just all right. I want to get in there, and going back to the acting thing, it's even though I don't want to do the acting, I still like to perform. So after I graduated high school, there was a big gap of time where I did magic, and not like the
mm,
card game, but like magic, like
yeah.
making stuff disappear. And so I got really involved in that. And looking back, that's a performing art. So it's always, I love doing any kind of performing art. So this is now my performing art. It's radio, it's podcasting, it's putting your self in front of a microphone and expressing yourself. And so I think it's just another form of acting in a way.
Mm,
So
agreed. Talk a little bit about you just mentioned magic. Like what about magic that what is that? What spoke to you about that?
So that is all that traces back to Chris Angel, unfortunately, who's really not highly regarded in the magic community. Um, Literally last night I watched the great film, The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, with Steve Carell and Jim Carrey, where Jim Carrey is parodying Chris Angel. Um, it's not Mind Freak, it's Brain Rapist. It's so funny. I totally forgot about how funny that movie is. But yeah, but it all goes back to Chris Angel, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know. Again, it's a performing art. So I got, there was at that time there was a theater magic shop in St. Augustine called Theater Magic. And
Mm.
so I applied to work there. It was basically a glorified sales pitch. You would bring people off the street into the theater, do a 20-minute show, and then afterwards you would say, now if you liked what you saw in the show, come on over to the gift shop and you can buy everything you just saw. So it was like it was a glorified sales pitch, but it was a great way to learn audience management. For that particular, obviously acting is totally different. You're not acknowledging the audience typically. But when you're a magician, it's a whole new world of, all right, now I got to make sure everybody in this audience, is on board. There's no hecklers, the people that want to, oh, I see the wire, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a whole new way to figure out how to manage the audience. So that was a great learning skill, and I just love doing it. I still do it to this day. It's a fun hobby, but I don't do it professional anymore. But yeah, it was maybe
So
3 4 years I did that.
were you sawing a woman in half? Did you do stuff like that?
No, 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 no. It wasn't big stage illusions. It was card tricks, coin
Tricks, yeah.
tricks, mentalism, reading minds, stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you like reading minds, like was that something that
No,
stuck
I
with
can't do it
you or
right now. No, I
no?
can't.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not.
Okay. All
I'm not.
right, cool.
I'm not reading your mind. However, I do have like. Do you want to see something?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Here, I'll show you something because literally I've been getting back into it. So I'm gonna try this out here. If I fail, cut this out.
Okay.
All right. Hold on. I'm gonna try to make sure I can talk and keep this in focus here. All right. So
Got a dollar.
we got a $1 bill. Now, if you were
One dollar.
here, if you were
Yeah.
here, I would hand this to you, and I would say, check this out.
Okay.
Make sure it's a legit $1 bill.
Okay.
And I would tell you this is actually a counterfeit bill, and you'd go, "It's a counterfeit bill." I'd say, "Yeah, here, hold it, check it out. Make
Yeah.
sure it seems real, but it's really not real." And you'd go, "Okay," and then you'd hand it back to me, and I'd say, "All right,
Okay.
so here we go. This is why it's a counterfeit bill, because if you fold it, right, fold it up in just the right way, you can actually, if you get it just right."
Oh wow. Wow. That's amazing. You just turned that into $100 bill.
Right there. And so that's the kind of stuff
Wow.
that's the kind of stuff I like to do.
So you just go to the bank and be like, "Here, give me that. Can I
Yeah.
just have $1?"
Yeah, give me
Oh, here you are. I just paid for everything. No, that's awesome. That's really cool. I'm not even gonna ask you how you did it, but that's really
It's sleight
cool.
of hand. It's stuff that I like to.
No, I understand what it is, but that's great.
It's
You
like a
just
piano player, it's like you don't want to ever stop knowing how to play the piano. And I always like
yeah.
to make sure that my hands are I don't know what the word is, but they're always at the ready to do something sleight of handy.
So taking it back to the Terminator
Yeah.
stuff, what is it about those films that just speak to you? That you wanted to do podcasts about it and you wanted to talk about it?
Well, specifically why I wanted to do a podcast was because I think at that point, I couldn't find a podcast that was dedicated to it.
Mhm.
And I had determined, because this is who I am, I think I sat down one day and I was like, what is my favorite movie of all time? And I like argued with myself. I was like, I think it is either I think at that point I said T2. Now it's the Terminator. It's always back and forth. But I was like, yeah, Terminator. I just love what it stands for. I love the films themselves. I love the messages of the film. No fate. You make your fate. Nothing is predetermined. The other films kind of go back on that, but whatever. And so I was like, okay, cool. So there's got to be a podcast where someone's kind of, geeking out about this, getting real sweaty. And there wasn't. And I was like, what? So I kind of figured, okay, I'll fix that. And then the idea to reach out to people from the films, that just kind of naturally came after I was 3, 4, 5 episodes in, and I was like, I don't think I can sustain this if it's just me talking about my theories or
Yeah.
whatever. And to get a bigger audience, you want to get people from the films because those are going to bring in more people. And so that was just a natural thing to be like, all right, well. And my first guest was Brett Azar, who unfortunately was in Terminator Genesis as Arnold's double for the recreated 1984 scene.
Yeah.
And he also went into Dark Fate for the flashback where he kills
Yeah.
John Connor. But I say unfortunately because it's the films. He's cool. Brett Azar is very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then from that point on, I've talked to Jesus, William Wisher, the co-writer of T2. I've talked to Jeanette Goldstein. She's a friend of the podcast, and John Bruno and Ed Marsh. These are all Cameron friends and collaborators. So
Yeah.
and usually the way it works, maybe similar to how you do your podcasting, you would understand this. One person has a good experience, and then either they suggest somebody or you ask, hey, can you get me in touch with somebody? And because they had a good experience, they'll be like, yeah, of course. So.
Yeah. In October, I think it was, or I think it was before that, like August. And seeing it again, it still holds up because it's such a strong film. I mean, like, even if people say, well, it looks like the 80s. Yeah, but it's gritty. It never lets up. What do you think about that first film? Just give me your thoughts about it.
Oh, it's a as close to a perfect film I think as you can get in terms of just the tightness of it. It flies by because I also went to that screening for the 40th. I actually drove across. I live in Georgia. I drove across state lines because there wasn't a
Wow.
Cinemark, whatever.
Yeah.
There wasn't a theater in Georgia that I could find close that was showing it, but there was one in South Carolina. So I was like, of course, that's how crazy I am. So I'm going to drive
Wow.
state lines to go see a movie I've seen 100,000 times. I have 50 copies. I have 50 copies on DVD in my room. But yeah, to just be able to say I saw it on the big screen, yeah, it's literally a perfect film in my opinion. Yeah, there's continuity. Yeah, sure, you could pick up on that, or you could pick up on the makeup effects, whatever. And even Jeff Don, the guy that worked on the films, the makeup artist, he even says, yeah, sure, of course it's dated. But you just look at a film, any film, in the time it was made. You know what I mean? Like, you have to do that. Otherwise, nothing is going to hold up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, maybe the most timeless film of all time is The Wizard of Oz, because that movie, I think, still looks like it might have been made in the 90s. Like, that's how timeless I think that movie is. The effects, everything about that, it looks like a pretty recent film within the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy that it's, coming up on 100 years. So, but yeah, T1's my favorite out of the two. T1 wins by, this much. Yeah, it's Arnold's best villain role. And I know he hasn't played very many villain roles, but it's his best. Linda's great. I've talked to Michael Biehn. He's great. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah. Have you watched the 4K re-release yet?
I have not seen it yet. I do own it. I had it pre-ordered on Amazon, but I haven't checked it out. I've heard that it looks way better than the T2 4K does. So I assume you have.
I have seen the T2 4K, and it's just that worked on the big screen. I mean, I don't know. Some people don't like it. I like that he came and remastered it, but he gave us that orange. It's too orange now. It's too. I don't know.
T1 is too orange.
No. T2. When
T2.
when
Okay.
they when he kind of came back and just he used the AI and the DNR and all that stuff.
Yep.
The thing that I think that sets apart T1 and T2 is, and I love watching reactions on YouTube of people that have never seen it before, and you can almost pinpoint the point where they start to like really start to pay attention, and it's when Kyle Reese is in the car, Michael Bihn's character, and he's talking about the future war, and he's explaining, he's basically explaining, what the whole movie is,
Mhm.
but he does it in such a way that I mean, when he shows us his forearm and it's got the burns on it, and he's talking about this hellish landscape, we don't really see it other than those like little bit of flashbacks. But I think that's what kind of sets it apart, because it takes it from being just another B movie where it's just a monster going after, and it becomes something else, because we're talking, the gravitas that he brought to those speeches, just talking about, I don't know, how do you feel about that?
Oh no, it's great. It's absolutely great. It's I've heard that it's maybe one of the best expositions that's ever been put out there, just because it keeps the movie moving, but you're
Ah,
also getting the information that you need at the same time. Um, yeah, no, it's and now Michael has a podcast of his own. It's I think it's called Just Fooling Around or Just Fooling About, something like that. Uh,
yeah.
so he's gotten into the podcasting world, but no, he's great. That scene's great. Kyle Reese is great. Jai Courtney was a horrible Kyle Reese.
We'll get to him. We'll get to him.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so now moving on to T2. Um, the forever debate will be, which is better, Terminator 1 or T2. It's like Alien or Aliens, which do you prefer?
Isn't
The
that
thing that
funny?
I
They're both,
Yeah,
isn't that funny? They're both Cameron. Isn't that funny?
I know. I know, Cameron, I mean, he just he brings that grittiness to those films that, like you said, the way he explains exposition, even in Aliens, you see it. It doesn't feel like it stops the movie. Like, a bad use of exposition is, Star Wars Episode 1, when you're just like, okay, we're just, we've got to get here to get to this place, whereas, Terminator 1, you're like, he's explaining the plot while they're in the car and they're moving. Um, Terminator 2, he gets the plot, everything you need to know is told in that voiceover when she in T2, where she's explaining, okay, they sent two Terminators back in time. Which one will get them to them first? I mean, that's pretty much all you need to know. Aliens, it's a little bit more of a setup, but it's that. Talk a little bit about T2. Why do you think that movie, like today, it still holds up, and it's kind of considered one of the greatest action movies ever made? I
Mhm.
mean, like it's always in that top 10.
Yeah, no, it's and I to answer the first question, it's T2 is better in every way, shape, and form because
Mm,
the mere fact that it is a sequel and it's as good, if not better, than the first film makes it
mm,
better than the first film, in my opinion. It's just not my favorite. T1 is my favorite, but T2 is
mm,
hands down the better film. Um, for the fact that it flips the Arnold thing, and that is still to this day one of the most ingenious things I think that have ever happened in all of cinematic history. The fact that you have Arnold and you can stick him in a villains list and a heroes list as the same character, and I don't think there's maybe one or two other examples. I'm just not thinking of them, but he is in a league very much of his own when it comes to that he owns that. He can be on those lists and he is. It's like an AFI list or something.
yeah.
It's wild. It's absolutely and it's ingenious and it's the thinking behind it, the reprogramming, absolutely wonderful. So that works, and it's the flipping of Sarah. Like that whole movie just flips everything, and it does it so masterfully. Gives us Robert Patrick as the T-1000. I don't really have an issue with the performance of Eddie Furlong. I really don't. I know
Same here.
some people call him too whiny or whatever, and he was going through puberty during that film, so he had to do a lot of ADR to go
Yeah,
back.
they had to loop every single one of his lines, other than I think when he was in the truck or whatever,
Right.
and they're like checking the thing. He kept his. You can hear his kid voice come in.
Yeah, and it's still, I mean, I haven't seen every Furlong performance, but that's still, I think, his best performance, and it's his first. And he's
Yeah,
like 12, 13, whatever. So,
yeah,
everything about that film and the emotion. I personally don't, I mean, I get why people cry at the end with the thumbs up and everything. And I've always said this, mark my words, Justin, when Arnold Schwarzenegger dies in real life, that's all you're going to see on the news
oh yeah,
is the
oh
thumbs
yeah,
up, is the thumbs up. That's all you're going to see. Uh,
yeah,
and it makes sense. But that's not the scene that gets me kind of teary eyed. It's the scene where I don't know if you want to get into, nitty
yeah.
gritty stuff here, but
Get into the nitty gritty.
it's why it's when Sarah goes to Miles and attempts to kill him and
Yeah,
literally gets to that point of nearly pulling the trigger, and you have him on the ground, you have the wife and the son, and then she just backs up, tells him to, be quiet, and just
yeah,
she realizes what she's become, and that's
yeah,
the scene that always gets me. And then John comes in, and God, that's the scene. I don't know if that's the scene for everybody, but
yeah.
that's always been the scene that's got me really teary eyed, and it's
Yeah, because when you think about it, she's created this like this evil villain in her head of what Miles Dyson is, and then when she sees him there, just
right,
begging, shot him in the arm, he's just bleeding there. She's like, she can't go that last step. She's become the Terminator when she's driving there. She's zero focused, but she can't do what the Terminator would do, which is just blow him away.
right,
She's got the humanity to her, which that movie is all about, finding, human life
yeah,
and the emotion to it. And no, I agree. That's the other scene to me that also is great is, when we see the nuclear bomb go off,
oh yeah.
and that in her head, and we just see just, I mean, I think James Cameron said that he got a thing saying from the people that make these actual bombs that thank you for Terminator 2 because it's the best um, reenactment of a nuclear explosion, and it's like that's kind of scary. It's
Right.
accurate.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's talk about being I couldn't tell you how old or how young I was when I saw that film for the first time, but man, that'll give you I don't know, I got nightmares from it. Maybe I did, but that it was burned
Yeah,
into my brain at a very young age, seeing Sarah hold on to the fence and the chain link fence and just literally melt apart. It's yeah,
yeah.
my dad was my dad is he's still alive. He's a very interesting guy, and that's one reason why he's very interesting. Showing Terminator 2 to his I don't know 12-year-old son.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, I begged my father to let me watch it, and it was like he didn't like movies, but I was just like, I have to see this, I have to see this, and that's how I saw it, and it's burned into my brain. Let's get into why do you think none of the sequels really work?
without Cameron, that's a big reason. And you argue Dark Fate, but even I was I think kind of a little too hopeful with that. Him coming
Same here.
back.
Same here. I was like, oh, it's gonna be good. And then you talk about this. You mentioned go driving to South Carolina. I took like an Uber ride. I was in Florida at the time, from Fort Lauderdale all the way to the only theater that would had an IMAX. It was like 45 minutes. Spent like $70 just to see that
Uh,
movie.
yeah, no, and it's because it's because Cameron's not involved, and it's because you can't top what was you can't top Terminator 2. You just can't. Like, I'm sorry. The only reason, because I'm a big fan of Zero, Terminator Zero,
Yeah,
and
we're gonna talk about that.
the only reason that really works is one, it's animated, so it feels like its own thing right there, and it has nothing to do with John, Sarah. It has nothing to do with them, and that's why it works. So the other reason is because the sequels all rely too much on John and Sarah, way too much. Whether it's 3 and they kill off Sarah and it's all about John, or you go to Genesis and they make John the villain, and
Yeah.
it's just, unfortunately, you can't let that stuff die, because it's, I forget who said it. It's show business, not show art. It's all about the money, like, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's really why
Agreed.
we've gotten all these sequels, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. It's unfortunate, but very true. So even though Cameron now is working on another film, I'm very non-optimistic. I don't know what the I don't know.
Skeptical.
Skeptical. Thank you. I'm very skeptical, and it's sad, but I don't know. Been burned too many
Yeah.
times.
Here's something I'm going to add to that. Here's why I think a lot of the sequels also don't work. They redesigned a lot of the things that did not need to be redesigned. Terminator 3, you see they redesigned the endoskeleton a little bit. It's like it's already perfect. You don't need to change that. They
Right.
redesigned the hunter killer. It doesn't have, when they finally go to the future war and salvation, it doesn't look like the future war. It's monochromatic. It's not those blues that we saw in T2 where it's this all-out war. So it's like they don't understand what was already there. Like, if there's one thing I'd love to ask those people that made those sequels, like, why did you redesign them? Why did
Mm.
you redesign this? Something that already works and is familiar. And I think it's very scary. That tank with the gunners on it, I don't think you need to redesign that.
No, no, of course not. That's a great question. I don't know why. See, with 3, I'm thinking of, like, the endoskeleton,
Mm.
and for the most part, it's really
It
just
looks
not.
not bad.
It doesn't look bad. It's just they went from practical to CGI in that film, and there's a lot of CGI endos, and that just rubs me the wrong way. Um, and then you get into, yeah, Salvation looks totally different, and I think the argument there is because the future has been changed by the actions of the characters. It's not going to look exactly the same, and okay, sure, that makes, I guess,
Yeah.
some semblance of sense.
But then why do the future war? Because that's what everyone wanted to see, was more of what we saw in T2,
Right.
expanded. I mean, they did a video game about it. It's like, you guys can't, I don't know, that to me, it's like little things like that that they don't appreciate and don't understand, that really led to the mindset of not really trying to ever get even close to the Terminator or Terminator 2, because they're like, good enough.
And this is another reason why Cameron is the best, because he does T1, he does T2. He knows he's topped himself, and he knows that he can't go any further than that. T2 3D Battle Across Time, you can't count that. That's, even though it acted as a mini sequel, that was for, all right, here we go. Here comes the beep. It's and giggles, and it was fun. And he directed it. He helped direct the short film, and then he wiped his hands. And then now he's in a really good position, because he literally can have his cake and eat it too, because he can write these things. He's never going to direct them. And if they're good, he'll get credit. And if they're bad, I didn't direct it, so you can't be mad at me. Right. So that's why he's the best, because he did,
Plausible deniability.
yeah, he did those 2 films, and now he'll stay associated to the franchise. He'll never direct again. If he directs a Terminator film, I will literally, my jaw will hit the floor. He'll never direct another Terminator film, but he will write, he will produce. And in the case of it being great, oh man, James Cameron, you're amazing. In the case of it sucking, well, he didn't direct it, so who are we really mad at, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Denis Villeneuve was the second runner-up for directing Terminator Genesis. That was
really?
the other guy they were thinking about doing. And I'd be like, what would that have been like? Because he would have had to have looked at that and be like, I'm not doing this. I'm
Well, yeah, he
not
wouldn't
doing
have
what
done it.
you're
Yeah,
doing this crap.
I don't think he would have done it. No, I don't think he would have done it. So they got the guy that did Thor: The Dark World or whatever.
Yeah. And yeah, I know, but Alan Taylor, he just didn't. I don't know. I don't, because he did good stuff on like Game of Thrones and stuff, and it's like, how do you not do that with this? Just I don't know. See, that's the thing. I just think it comes down to they don't really care about the quality. They just said, let's just do quantity. We want a franchise, but the three after Terminator 3, Salvation, Genesis, Dark Fate never could launch anything. They just never you I can remember being in those theaters and there was never you never felt people excited enough for like, oh, I need more of this.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know if you felt the same way.
Yeah, no, no, no. I remember seeing Genesis in the theater, and then at the end, after I think it's either mid credit or post credit, but there's a cliffhanger in Genesis where it's this. I think it's the is it the Matt Smith character or something happens where you go into the rubble and
Yeah.
Skynet or Genesis whatever shows up, and then it cuts to black. And I remember the people that hung around to see that. I'm pretty sure it either got a laugh or it got it, I know
Yeah.
it got an eye roll from me. So you know,
Yeah.
and then the only Tim Miller, I would love to talk to Tim Miller
Yeah,
because
he'd be interesting to talk to.
I do think because Dark Fate is not a bad film in and of itself.
Agreed.
It's a bad film because it's associated to Terminator. That's why it's bad. It's not a bad film in and of itself. It's competently put together. It makes
Yeah.
sense. It's not convoluted the way Genesis is. So I do
We're
think
not even explain it in Genesis of like why this is even happening. I
right,
remember reading an interview and they said, well, we're going to explain it later. And it's like, really? It doesn't sound like that. That sounds like a horrible idea. It's like,
yeah,
oh, we'll figure it out later. But sorry about
right.
that.
No, 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 you're good. No, but I do think he sleeps well at night, like going, okay, because he even talked about it when they did the initial kind of press about it. It
Yeah.
was a Hollywood Reporter interview with him and Cameron on a stage. I remember this. And he was like, all right, so look, I'm trying to think of myself as a fan. And if I heard that a sixth Terminator film was coming out, how would that make me feel? And so I was very on board with Tim Miller
Same here.
directing and the way he was talking. And he was talking like the way you and I are talking about how frustrated we are about where the franchise is. So I think he did his absolute best. When you look at Dark Fate, I think there's 5 credited writers. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Right there is your problem. You,
And then you can always pinpoint that in any film. It's like
of
when you
course,
see the five credited
yeah,
writers, you're like, oh, this is a committee
yeah,
coming in and asking questions like, can we add this into the film? We think
yeah.
this will work better with this. I think with Dark Fate, I just don't think it looks too polished to me
That's
to be next to T2 and the Terminator. It doesn't have that gritty feeling. I mean, it also suffers from what a lot of the characters that they come across have no personality and don't really drive you. Like, in T2, you have, Sarah, the guy who licks her face. Everyone wants to see him get it. You got Silberman. You got even the bikers in the bar. They have personality. They're not just no name characters. So we have some kind of emotional reaction to them. Um, the when he's out there with he's finally just figured out that he can control the Terminator. He's like, hey, grab this guy, and this is when he tells him, not to kill. They all have some kind of personality. They're not just, and I feel like none of the sequels ever, they just are like, okay, stand in next one, and here we go, and fight, and we're done. And I think that's kind of suffering in those movies is Cameron, he takes these side characters and makes something of them. They're not just nothing. I don't know. That's something I thought about. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know that I ever thought of it like that when it comes to the characters, the side, secondary, third, whatever characters.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Personally, it's I guess Cameron just and it's not just Cameron. Also, it's going back to the writers. You know, you look at Cameron's films. It's either him solely writing the films, or he has uh, Avatar changed it. Up until Avatar, it was only either him alone or one other writer.
Yeah.
And so that was either William Wisher or Gail Ann Hurd, I know is credited on the first one. Other than that, once you get to Avatar, and I get why, it's because it's just this expanding thing. So he has to bring in. So I'm not worried with that when where you look at Avatar 3 and it has 4 or 5 writers credited. I'm not worried
Yeah.
with that. But usually, yeah, so it's not just him when he writes these really good characters. It could be a William Wisher thing that wrote Silberman really good. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I never really thought of the like
Yeah.
boring second, third, fourth characters in these other
There's just
films.
like nothing, memorable about, the stuff, like the girl that the Terminator kills, the first Sarah Connor. I remember her. She doesn't do anything, but there's something about it that's memorable about what they're doing there, where, just like, I mean, probably, Dick Miller's character, who, he's,
Hey,
he's
you
like,
can't do that.
you can't do that. He's like, wrong.
Yeah, it's great.
And there's none of that, I think, in, Bill Paxton's characters or whatever, they're just gonna make fun of him or whatever. And it's like, it becomes it becomes a scene. There's something there, and I don't see that in any of. I don't know. I just wonder if that's part of why the sequels don't mix. Is it's just like it's carried by either Arnold, or it's carried by Linda and Arnold, or there's nothing like I love Mackenzie Davis as an actress, but I just don't feel like she had enough of like they just it feels like the Force Awakens of the Terminator, where they're just kind of going, we're going to introduce these new characters and you're going to love them just as much as the previous characters. And it's just like that just doesn't work. It's competently made, but like, why are we doing this? Why get rid of John Connor?
Hmm.
That's what I'd love to ask.
Yeah, and these past two at least films, I think also Salvation was doing this or trying to do this. They all wanted to set up a trilogy of films. I know Genesis was going to do that, and I know Dark Fate was planned on doing that. I think the same thing applies to Salvation, but I'm
They
iffy on
did.
that
They were going to
information.
do that too.
And
They wanted to.
that I never understand why you go into anything like that. Like if I was going in to a like if I was going to sit down and write a movie, I would sit down and write a movie. I would not attempt to plan for future things when I don't even know if this first one is going to even remotely hit an audience and be successful enough to get me those other films. So why even bother with that? Just focus on the one film, make it as good as you can, and then if it's successful, then you'll get your chance to do your supposed trilogy. But don't they've always announced it. Oh yeah, like back
Yeah.
to that Hollywood Reporter thing, Cameron said something like, "Oh yeah, like if this is successful, we plan on doing
Yeah.
more of these." So even he has his faults, uh
Yeah.
endorsing Genesis and literally them sticking his endorsement on the Blu-ray. I just want
Yeah.
to take a Sharpie and scratch it off.
Yeah,
Uh,
where he was in the commercial and he's like, I saw
you're gonna
something
love this movie.
and I just thought, oh wow, I'm like, did you watch this? I mean, you didn't even like the third one, which people actually liked.
And he later said he only said that because he's friends with Arnold. So I don't know which is
Yeah.
worse, the fact that he even said it in the first place or that he retroactively said I lied and it's only because I'm friends with Arnold. I don't know if I was Arnold how that would make me feel either way. It's just like maybe
Yeah.
don't even say anything in the first place, you know? Don't say, "Oh,
Yeah.
down the road I lied because I'm friends with you." Okay. So you lied?
Yeah, so we all went. I know that was like kind of and they tried to do that with Dark Fate after that was it was like, well, we didn't think it was really gonna work, but we did it anyway, and it's just like, well, Why'd you know, I don't know. It's so frustrating. So let's jump to, the first actual hope of the Terminator franchise, which I think is Terminator Zero,
Right.
where
Me
we
too.
actually got something that was in the world of it, but different. Talk a little bit about it.
Completely different. Completely different. And I am correct in assuming that's how we're even talking here in the first place, is because I had the composers on, and then
Yeah.
subsequently you had the composers on. Great people, Michelle and Kevin.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, it's so refreshing. It's so refreshing. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people have checked it out. And I think it might be because it's
No,
animated. It
they
might be because
haven't.
it's animated. I was tracking because I like to see when something that I'm interested in, where it falls in the top 10 on Netflix.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw it go past 8 or 9 on like the
I,
top 10. You know what I mean?
I thought it was like on two, like the third one, like just the first day.
Oh,
I
really?
think. I'm not sure. I don't quote me on that.
But it
But
didn't last long.
no, it didn't last long. It was just kind of like because it's the new thing. But I mean, I remember staying up till like 3 a.m. as soon as that thing, because I was like, I have a feeling this is going to be good. I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was, but yeah, people haven't seen it. I've talked about it. I've said, go see this. It's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not wasting your time.
Right. Get Netflix, you know. I know a lot of people got it recently for the Mike Tyson fight. So now that you have it,
Yeah, go
now that
see
you
it.
have it, watch Terminator Zero. I have to rewatch it again. I've only seen it once.
Mm,
So I know I'm missing details, and I know I'm
yeah.
missing stuff that just happens on your first run through something. But just everything about it worked. Like there's literally an episode that opens where they're explaining the time travel, and that
And
was
that was great.
and it was great because I've always, I had a co-host for No Fate But What We Stream, and
Yeah.
we always had this debate back and forth about the timelines and everything, and that's how sweaty we got about it. Like we got real like sweaty, and it was like no, there's one timeline that like that's what he believed. It was all one timeline. I'm like that just doesn't make sense in my head, you know. So the way that Terminator Zero presents it, where you go back in time and you start a new timeline, I was like, oh my god, Matson, Tom,
Yeah.
thank you, Matson.
Yeah.
You
They
know,
they 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 understood. Here's the thing that I think also sets Terminator Zero apart from all the sequels is there's a heart to that film. You care about these characters, and it really just like they. I don't know. I think that's what's missing. We the heart
yeah.
of the characters. We care about where they're going. They took us on a ride.
No, sorry. Did you listen to the original Japanese, or did you listen to the English dub?
I've only listened to the English dub. I usually go straight to the Japanese, but when I heard who was doing it, I was like, I kind of want to hear these English, voices because I like how they did it.
Yeah, no, same. Yeah. So I did the English dub as well. So I'm thinking if I go back and well, not if when I go back and rewatch it, I think I'm gonna really kind of hone in and see how the Japanese original sounds. Um, that's my only worry. My only worry is I wonder if that's gonna detract it from me, because I'm not against that it's in Japan or anything.
Mhm.
I don't know. I always say I'm a stupid American, uh, and so I'm kind of, but I'm gonna try to really kind of hone in and turn on the original Japanese audio and see how that's kind of makes me feel. But
Mm.
yeah, no, it's absolutely wonderful. I hope it gets a second season. I know Michelle and Kevin are
Yeah.
very hopeful, and uh,
Yeah. I asked them that. I said, are we getting the second season? How long do we
fingers
have to
crossed.
wait?
Fingers
Is it
crossed.
just this? It's that's the first. I mean, I'm glad Cameron's coming back to, write this stuff, but I'm like, I want more of this world. And I almost think you should maybe do live action with this, maybe,
Live
you know,
action with like
with
adapt Terminator
like
Zero.
in yeah, like in setting it in Japan, and
Oh,
it
okay.
might give it a different feel. I don't
You
know.
know, I one reason I want to talk to Matson, I haven't yet, but I would love to talk
Yeah.
to him, is because I want to know if Cameron has seen Terminator Zero, because
Yeah.
I know he's doing this whatever new script. So maybe he's avoiding to avoid being inspired too much, but I hope he checks it out at some point because
Yeah.
it's so respectful of the franchise and it takes it in a whole new direction. So to me, it is canon. To me,
Yeah.
Terminator
Same
Zero
here.
is 100% canon, which blows my mind when, like, if you were to tell me 5 years ago that no, Dark Fate will not be canon to you, a Cameron included entry in the franchise will not be canon, but a animated story set in Japan will be. So I guess
Yeah.
anything's possible. I guess that's the point of that.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, Mattson is right now writing Batman 2.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
which, ooh, that's got a lot. I don't know if you saw the Penguin. Uh,
Uh, I mean, I saw that. I saw the Batman in theaters. I'm just like, like my favorite is Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, and that's because it has nothing to do
yeah.
with anything really. It's just,
Yeah.
it's its own thing.
You should watch the Penguin. You'd like it
I
because
would.
it's done. It's done well.
Well, Colin
You're not,
Farrell. Colin
yeah,
Farrell's great.
but you're gonna like what you think it is not what it ends up being. So
Oh,
it's I was blown away by it. I was like, that and Terminator Zero have been like my favorite series I've seen this year because I just feel like they really tried to do something different with that.
yeah. I don't really
So
watch any series because I just don't like. I can't.
yeah, no, that's cool.
It's too time consuming. So that's
Yeah,
why film is so much better, in my opinion. It's one
yeah,
hour, 1 hour and a half, 2 hours. Get out.
yeah.
You
And
know.
that's what was kind of cool about Terminator Zero is that it's not that long. You can almost wrap it up in like, one day. I watched it in one day. It's like
Holy crap.
because I was just like I can't I had to do something and then I was like, okay, all right, now I'm come back home. All right, watch the rest of it. And then come back, it just kept coming back because I was like, I have to see this thing. It's just so I was just blown away. I was like, finally something that like I could be proud of and not just go, well, that was good.
Right. Right.
Lying to myself like I did like with Terminator Genesis when I came. So, well, it wasn't that bad. And then I'm like thinking about, no, it's not as effing awful. What am
Yep.
I doing? What
Yep.
am I doing here? Where would you like to see the franchise go in the future?
Oh, Jesus. I don't know. See, this is why I'm not a filmmaker because I'd literally be in the writer's room and they'd go, all right, Eddie, what are your ideas? I'd go, let's watch Terminator 2. Uh, it's like I don't
Yeah,
know because you
yeah,
can't top that. Terminator. Oh,
yeah.
as much as I love Terminator Zero, it doesn't top T2. Uh,
No,
so still, even the best thing we've gotten can't come close to that. So I don't know. Personally, I'd say, guys, let's just not do this. Let's let's pull the plug on this, and let's come up with something else, or find some other franchise. This is what. So this is another reason I'm not a filmmaker
you
because
know what I've always wanted them to do, and I thought they kind of left this always on the table is having John Connor's like rise to power and doing some kind of thing where he's kind of I don't know, trying to decide whether he's going to be, kind of dictatorial or, be this hero and having to decide on how he sees the machines. I don't know. I thought that might be something to do because they've never really, the only like real depth we've gotten with John Connor was, the second one. That's like been the best one. I mean, they had a chance to do it with Christian Bale's. I mean, he's the actor to do it with, but there's no real character to that. It's just point A to point B type of thing. I don't know.
and
It's just
and my understanding with Salvation was the character of John Connor was very minute in terms.
yeah,
And then once Bale signed on, they rewrote it to include him a little more because of his
yeah,
star power. But initially, John Connor in Salvation was not supposed to really be anything, to my understanding. And then Christian Bale signs on, and they're like, "Oh my God, we have Christian Bale. Well, we got to give him more to do." And then he gets upset and yells at the guy with the lighting the scene.
which
What
I
don't
can
you
understand
effing
as an actor.
understand?
as an actor, I can if he was actually changing the lights in front of him as he's trying to act, I would be like, oh, I wouldn't probably act like that, but I mean, you know, judging, but I don't know how many takes they probably did of that. Maybe, that was like the 30th take, and he was just like, and that's what they caught.
And then he signed the contract. Well, he signed the contract, and then he realized what the movie was, and so that probably upset him as well. And he probably
Yeah.
had cold oatmeal in the mornings. It's just it was
Yeah.
all a recipe for disaster.
I mean, they brought in Jonathan Nolan to like kind of do like a rewrite on it, but it just never really. I don't know. It just didn't. I don't know. Terminator Salvation had moments of good stuff to it, but it just never materialized. So now we come to the part of my podcast where I ask these are kind of my inside the actors studio questions. So
James
do you
Lipton.
have yeah, my James Lipton things. Do you have a beginning of the day routine?
Dang, I need some Lipton tea. I'm feeling inspired. What was the question? Sorry.
What is your beginning of the day?
Lately it's been take a shower. I got to wake up and get to whatever typically go to work. It just helps me if I'm showered. I know some
Mm,
people like my significant other. It makes them sleepier.
mm.
It like wakes me up. So yeah, take a nice hot shower.
Oh, a
Uh,
hot shower.
oh, hot shower. Yeah, no, what?
Not a cold
Take a
shower,
cold?
not the Rogan thing,
No,
or
no, 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 no,
the
no, no.
freezing plunge.
Yeah, no, because you can buy like little tiny versions of that stuff and make it at your house. And I thought about it, and then I was like, Eddie, you're gonna spend at least $100 on this thing, fill it with cold water, get in and
Sit
go.
there and do
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah, I'm not doing
I've
that.
made a mistake. Get rid of it.
And no,
Oh
I
wait, I can't bring it back.
look. Well, there's a reason why Rogan is Rogan, and
Yeah.
I'm not.
Oh yeah. Do you have a nighttime routine?
Uh, so this will sound weird, but 9 times out of 10, it is. Are you familiar with who Chris Hansen is?
Yeah. Yeah. Dateline.
Dateline, Catch a Predator. He has a streaming network called True Blue,
Oh really?
which you could sign up for $4.99 a month. And I am. And so I watch. Typically, I'll watch. For the longest time, it was catching up to the newest season. So now I'm caught up. So now I got to figure out what to do. But for the longest time, it was all right. Let's watch a new episode of. It's called Takedown with Chris Hansen. And some people will probably think you're going to bed with that in your mind, and it's I can. Yeah, like I can watch a horror movie and go right to sleep and like
Yeah.
that stuff. So I can watch a horror
Yeah.
reality show and go right to sleep. I don't know. Something about Chris Hansen is like I love what he
Yeah.
does. I love the catching these predators. So
Yeah. I bet you're gonna tell me that you have to have Terminator 2 blaring as
oh,
you
Chris
sleep.
Hansen. Chris Hansen tucks me in.
That's funny. Do you meditate?
No, I wish I did. I wish I did. I think it just boils down to I don't have the patience.
Mm,
Uh, I'm fidgety, you know.
mm.
And I think to do that successfully, you have to kind of really zone in. So I don't meditate, but I wish I did.
I can give you a meditation where you can be fidgety and you'll still
Oh,
get
so
the
you
thing.
can fidget and meditate at the same
There are
time?
there are some meditations where you can like touch because here's what's going to happen. The more you do it, the more you're going to stop doing that.
Right.
It's like if I say, okay, don't touch yourself, and then you're going to be like, oh,
I really want to
I
touch.
gotta yeah, I gotta really touch my it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so it's kind of that thing. So you're kind of like if I say, just do whatever you do, you'll eventually stop doing it because you'll just kind of fall into it. I'll talk to you a little bit about it. I'll give you some stuff. What are you reading?
My girlfriend loves to say I don't know how to read, so I'm not reading. I'm not reading anything, unfortunately. Uh,
Okay.
no, no, no. I hold on. Okay, so I'm not reading it currently, but I
Yeah.
always really the only book I've read cover to cover and was involved, and I followed, and I was emotionally attached. The Disaster Artist from Greg Sestero. Yeah, see, you know what I'm talking about. Yes, and the original cover too. I mean, the one for the film is
Oh
good,
wow.
but yeah, the original cover is the one I had as well. Yeah, that's the one I had.
Oh wow. Yeah, I went to like a screening of The Room, and he was there and met him.
Yep, yep. He
Sign
actually
it.
came to the Lucas Theater not that long ago here in Savannah. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love the movie that they based it off of as well. I find it,
Oh,
very funny.
it's great. You know, it's such a shame Franco, got
Yeah.
kind of canceled there for a while, but hopefully
I
he can.
interviewed his former manager. He couldn't
Ooh,
really
how'd that
talk
go?
about him.
How'd that go?
It's interesting to learning about how he found him and stuff like that. It's on that. I'll send you the link.
Wait, you talked to Franco's former manager?
Yeah, Franco's
Oh,
former
okay, okay.
manager.
For a
Yeah.
second there, I was like, wait, you talked to
No,
Franco's former manager? I thought he is his
he's
manager.
like off the grid. Who knows where Franco. I don't know. He's kind
Yeah.
of persona non grata.
A shame, and it also ruptured his friendship with Seth Rogen, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So,
did.
because I love their collaborations, The Interview, the one that
Oh
almost
yeah.
got us into the Third World War, that movie I think is hysterical. So,
I still love Pineapple Express.
oh, that's like great. This is the end, like, and it's
I've never
ironic
seen
too.
This Is the End.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, okay.
I I I need to see it. I mean, I know a lot about it. So yeah, like the what is it? The slap where Michael Cera slapped Rihanna on the thing. She like actually slapped him as hard as she could, and like they said that he had to go like sit down because he had a headache.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah, that movie is great.
Yeah.
And it is ironic that their last film is The Disaster Artist. So it
Mm.
has disaster in the title, and then it all became a disaster afterwards. So
I
yeah,
did not hit her. I did not.
but that is the only book because I just love The Room. I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it's
that book held my interest.
it's such a bad movie.
It's
God.
wild.
It
And I really
is
want to see his new film, Big Shark.
Yeah, I auditioned for that.
What?
The
Really?
script wasn't I mean, it was just like a taped audition, like self-tape, but it was there, and it really didn't I have no idea what it's gonna look like. It was just kind of like you're in a back seat or something type of thing, but I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what that ends up being.
Right.
Um, what are you listening to right now
What am I listening to? Um,
besides me?
yeah, right. Yeah, no. I was gonna be a smart ass and go, you.
Me, yeah.
What am I listening to? Well,
Music wise, yeah.
oh, okay. I was thinking podcasts. So podcasts, not to bring
Mm.
Chris Hansen back, but he has a podcast called Predators I've Caught. So I like to listen to that as well. I'm addicted to Chris Hansen. He's great. Um,
Would you have a seat?
Yeah, no, look, I
It's-
would love to meet him, not in that way. I would love to meet him like
yeah.
I know he goes to conventions every once in a while, like crime
Yeah.
conventions, which that's a weird thing.
Crime conventions.
It's
This is my
true.
favorite
Yeah,
crime.
yeah, it's so weird. But he goes to those, so maybe one day I'll meet him. Or
Yeah.
he loves Starbucks and I work at a Starbucks, so I'm
Oh
always
wow.
hopeful. I have my fingers crossed that he'll walk in because I've met John Bernthal at a Starbucks.
Oh
I was
wow.
just working one day and I looked over and there's John Bernthal from The Walking Dead and The Punisher just ordering a cup of coffee. So
Yeah, I could see him doing. I could see him.
anything
Doing
could
that.
happen.
He's normal. Yeah.
So to catch Predators I've Caught, the podcast, I'm listening to that. Music, hold on, I have my phone here. I'll give you my last 5 songs that are on my liked songs. Okay, so the first one is from thanks to SNL. I love SNL. It introduces me to a lot of artists that I wouldn't not check out.
Yeah. Same here. Sometimes yeah.
McGee is the artist, MK.GEE. McGee, and the song is Rockman. I love
Yeah,
it.
I heard of that. Yeah, he that was the first time I saw him was on SNL, and
SNL, the
I was
Bill
like,
Burr.
this was good. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I had
Uh,
the same feeling too. Yeah, I gotta find that again. Did I put it on there? I don't, but anyways, yeah.
uh, then the next one is Looking for Trouble. Force with the letter or with the number four.
Mm,
Lovecraft. That's a really cool. Like that was around Halloween. It's got a
mm,
good Halloween vibe. Blood on White Satin. That is from Smile 2, which I
mm,
really enjoyed. Smile 2. And then we got Galway Girl. So I'm a big Ed Sheeran fan, and
mm.
that's the latest Ed Sheeran song I found. And then we got Boom from X Ambassadors, and I heard that while I was walking around Spencer's in the mall, and I was like, "This is really catchy."
Ah.
And so
They
that's
still have Spencer's.
they still
Spencer's is
have
still
Spencer's, yeah,
around.
because it's connected to Spirit Halloween. It's the same like
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
person or people own Spencer's. They
Yeah,
own Spirit Halloween. So
that makes sense.
yeah.
What are you watching right now? I mean, I know you just watched.
Yeah, so last night I watched Incredible Burt Wonderstone. Check it out. Then that previous night I watched Terminator Dark Fate because I did the podcast with my friend last night. And then so the newest film I saw was Wicked.
What do you think?
3 out of 5. I prefer it on the stage, but nothing against Ariana, Cynthia. I thought they were good. I don't think it needs to be in 2 parts. I think that's very cash
Yeah.
grabby and rubs me a little wrong. Um, and the fact that it's a year away. I've never been fans of that. I am a fan of. Do you remember when the sequels to The Matrix came
Yeah.
out? Reloaded and Revolutions? They came out in the same year. Do it that way. You know, I think
Yeah.
Reloaded came out in
I
May or something, and then Revolutions came out in November. It was like six
I
months.
thought I thought the Wicked 2 is supposed to come out in on March.
November 2025.
Okay, that's
It's just it's stupid, and
that's
it
dumb.
it doesn't need to be 2 films. It's just cash grabby, and look at how much money
Yeah.
it's making already. So they knew what they
Yeah.
were doing. So it's
Of course.
smart. It's smart. It's show business, but it just rubs me the wrong way. So three
Yeah,
out.
and you have to sit there and wait for, the conclusion. Are you going to see Gladiator 2?
I got to see Gladiator 1 before I see
Oh, you've
Gladiator.
never seen Gladiator 1? Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
see
got to.
Gladiator 1 first.
Is it
You
good?
you didn't I haven't seen it yet. That's what I was going to ask you.
Oh, you haven't seen? No, no, Gladiator.
I've seen the first. The first one is really good. I mean, it for, Ridley Scott film.
Mhm.
Um I wouldn't say it's the best film ever,
It's
but
not his
it's
best film.
no, I think that's Alien and, Blade Runner, but
Okay.
for me,
But didn't Gladiator win Best Picture?
it did, and he won for Best Actor.
And Russell
It's
Crowe
it's
won
still
Best
a
Actor.
good it's still a good film. I don't know. I don't think it holds up as quite as much as it did then. It's kind of,
Right, right, right. Because didn't one of
but
the
I don't know.
actors die and they had to like
Yeah.
digitally recreate him or something in the scene?
Oliver
Oliver
Reed
Reed, right?
was in it. And
And he
he,
passed away during filming. Yeah.
Well, now I got to ask you because I read your, I read your review of Red One, not quite my tempo.
Yeah, no, no, no. Like, okay, so I remember telling my girlfriend Haley this. I was like,
Yeah.
Letterboxd has really just become a way for people to write one or two sentences and get like 100 or 200 likes, and that's the most popular review, which always upset me, you know.
Yeah.
But now here I am doing the same exact thing. So I've fallen prey to it. It is fun from time to time, uh, but I don't like to do that normally. I like to kind
Yeah.
of give a couple like at least a
Yeah.
paragraph, you know.
Well,
I
what are you going to
follow.
say about that film? I mean, it's
Oh,
it's
Red
probably
One.
not. It's not really good, is it?
Yeah, no. And $250 million. Like, are you kidding me?
It's more than Oppenheimer.
Yeah, no. Look, I actually do enjoy The Rock, and if he were to walk into
Yeah.
Starbucks, I would also kind of be like, all right, I'm gonna go take a photo. Like I would want to
Yeah.
interact with the guy. I'm not anti-Rock, but like, come on, man. Like, apparently he inflated that budget just off of his salary, and it's like, dude, like,
Yeah. Well, he said he watched Oppenheimer, and he said if it's on the IMAX, he said it's like it's game over. And it's like if it's not a good movie, I don't care what
yeah,
screen it's on.
yeah. I just, man, I could not get into that at
I
all. Red
I
One.
mean, it looks like they're doing, Jumanji again. I mean, I looked at all the people that, wrote it and stuff like there's some talent there, but it seems like they're just going for the most basic thing there.
Yeah, no. And funny because it is the Jumanji director, right? He did the
Yeah.
previous Jumanjis, so it's probably just that's what he was doing.
And it looks like Rock is playing the Jumanji character again, just a different version of that.
Yeah, no. And it's a shame too because J.K. Simmons was a big drawing point for me, and
Yeah.
he's quite literally asleep for the whole movie. So, you know, whatever.
Does he do anything that like is there anything memorable, like a whiplash moment or something?
Oh, of course not. No, no, no. But he's also in Genesis, you know.
I
Uh,
know.
so
And he was so underutilized in that. They like, I'm like, you've got this great actor and you're just gonna have him do, what is the line he says? Time traveling robots.
oh yeah, goddamn traveling robots. Like he has
It's
some good.
like, yeah, like he would have been an interesting character. If they had fleshed him out a little bit more, he could have been something that, you could have kept coming back to. And it's just like, but he's just in it there. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
We're getting back on the Terminator
Man,
Genesis.
and because I took my girlfriend to go see Whiplash for the 10th anniversary screening, and
Oh, I didn't get a chance to see. I wanted to do that, but I just couldn't get it. And
so and I can't fault any actor for it, to try to do that kind of thing every
yeah,
film, and not even that performance, just try to be in a film like that every single film is
yeah,
one, unrealistic,
yeah,
and two, not as fun, so I don't,
yeah,
I've kind of gotten away from criticizing actors
yeah,
for taking, so like it could be very easy to look at J.K. Simmons and go, dude, 1 year prior to Terminator Genesis you did Whiplash and then you
yeah.
sign on for Terminator Genesis, why, you know
I don't blame him. I look at it like, the writers, as soon as they got him, they should have been like, let's rewrite this and make it better because we've got this guy in there. I don't really look at it as for him. As he probably signed on to that before Whiplash was even a big hit. So
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, exactly. And you know, he probably is thinking to himself, "Look,
yeah.
I'm gonna like when I die, people will probably remember me for Whiplash." And
Oh yeah.
it's amazing they'll even remember me in the first place. So,
Like I love him in La La Land when he's just playing the
oh
the
yeah.
guy with the guy that's just he's like, I need you to do the music that I want you to do. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay, but let's just do it's like, no, you're fired. Get out.
And he was pretty good in Saturday Night, that new
Yeah.
SNL film that came
Yeah.
out.
What did you think of that? I like that a lot.
I I liked him. I forget what I gave the film itself. I wasn't too crazy about the film. It felt I called it the SNL version of Uncut Gems,
Yeah.
and uh, it just made me want to watch the real
SNL.
Saturday Night. You know what I mean? It just made me want to really watch true Saturday Night Live. Like I didn't really, and it just kind of abruptly ended right as it got really good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I just wanted to see more of that, like more kind of like reenacting the actual, like the lead up to it. And apparently, it's not
Yeah.
as factual as
It's
what,
not. Oh wow, I didn't know that.
to my understanding. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there, but who knows? But
I
yeah,
I enjoyed it because I like that concept of like they got to get this show on the air, and you've got all these people that want to pull it off the air, because they think it's going to be a failure, and I can see he's talking to what's his name, Johnny Carson, and he's just like, this is what we did to me.
yeah, yeah. And
They got that.
it had bright moments for sure.
Mm.
It's not a bad film or anything. It's just I don't know. I'll never
Nah.
watch it again.
No,
But
you wouldn't watch it again.
no, no,
No. Uh,
I
Would
won't.
you watch Red? Would you watch Red One again?
Ooh, yeah. Which one would I rather watch? I'd rather watch SNL or
Yeah,
Saturday Night.
yeah,
Um, yeah, no, absolutely.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so far my favorite film this year is dang it, why am I? What? Of course I'm blanking because I'm on a
I read your thing. It was
other
here. You said.
here. Thank you. Yes, here.
So is this like a return to like Robert Zemeckis, like Forrest Gump, Back to the Future style guy, or like
Uh, yeah, because I guess so in a way. Yeah, it is a. I'm not a big Zemeckis fan in the first place. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him, you know, in a Rushmore kind of
In the 80s,
situation.
I thought he was really good, but like as he's this era where he did Pinocchio and
Allied and
Marlin or Marwin.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no.
Although I didn't mind Allied. I thought Allied was a not bad film, but it's not, Back to the Future. It's not, what he could be. He's one of those guys that, had those, these tentpole films and, kind of, did more films as opposed to like a Cameron who's like, I've done successful films now. I'm going to take my time to make the next one. I think it's partly also because he is involved in the writing and he's involved in every aspect of his films.
Mhm.
Like you're not going to see a Cameron just come in and be like, oh yeah, they just want me to direct this movie.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Personally, though, I from the moment I heard of the concept, a locked camera position, you had me interested. And so I understand the criticisms of the film that like that just immediately will not work for people right there in and of itself. And then the fact that you are dealing with non-linear characters coming in, out, all over the place. I just don't know how at the end of that film, if you're not at least a little teary eyed. I mean, I literally
Yeah.
tears coming out of my eyes. To me, it's a miraculous film. It touches on something that we all can relate to. Every single person can
Mhm.
relate to. And it's that feeling that I don't know that I've felt in a film before of thinking about all those places you inhabited for years upon years upon years, and then who inhabited it before you. And it's such a fascinating idea to
Yeah.
explore. You know what I mean? The de-aging worked for me. It was not distracting. After a
Yeah.
certain point, I think I forgot that I was watching de-aged actors. So right there is miraculous because I'm very picky with that stuff.
They've gotten much better with that stuff. Like
Oh, it's amazing.
it's not as, noticeable I mean when they're just using the actual actor is fine, but when they try to like recreate the actor like Moff Tarkin and Star Wars or whatever, where he's just standing there in Rogue One and he kind of looks like a monkey.
Right. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
like they kind of really have perfected it, to a
that's
certain.
good.
Oh, you okay, so you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I will probably see it. I see everything, so
So then I'm glad I didn't say what I was going to say cuz
yeah,
I don't want to spoil
don't.
anything.
Did you watch Honora?
Not yet. No. We
That's
constantly
really
had
good.
scheduling things that kept
Yeah.
popping up, so
That I was like, I wasn't looking forward to it because it just looked like from the trailers, it didn't really interest me. But then once the film starts going, it's like, oh, it's not that. So
okay.
I think you probably like it. What's another film you got? And I'll let you go.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So far this year, I think my second favorite film is Joker, Folie à Deux. Um,
Okay, so yeah, you liked it, and I liked it. All right, so here's the thing. I liked it the first time. The second time, I didn't like it as much, and then the third time, I kind of got back to like liking it again.
mhm.
I think if you can look at it as not a Joker film, you'll appreciate it more because I think people are just like they're kind of upset with kind of where it goes.
Right.
You talk
Right.
about it.
Right. Similar. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know that's a spoiler or not. You cut whatever you want to cut out here. It's not a Joker film. I mean, it's quite literally
Yeah,
not a
I
Joker film.
think everybody knows that now.
Right? Like that's the
Like
whole thing
nobody's,
about it. He's
it's
not
not
the
really a
Joker.
spoiler.
He
Yeah,
he's not the Joker. Um, and so now that'll be interesting going forward because with the first film, people debated
yeah,
best Joker of all time, and I was always arguing Joaquin Phoenix. Now
yeah.
I don't know if I can do that anymore. But it is what it is. Um, it's just yeah. Look, I don't think the criticisms are valid. I think the fact that they did what they did, Todd Phillips and Scott Silver, I think is the other writer. Uh,
Mm.
they knew what they were doing. They knew they were gonna
Yeah.
piss people off. It shows in the box office return. You got $1 billion hit on the first one, and you got a flop on the second one. So thank God we're not going to get any more because I don't want any more.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a perfect 1-2 punch. Watch them both. Love it.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that he took a risk. And
oh,
I
it's
mean, they
amazing.
wanted him to do like a focus group or whatever. And I'd be like, that's the problem. They do too much of that focus group stuff. Is like, like look at Captain America 4. They've like reshot that, I don't know, like 17 times, it feels like.
Are you talking about the new one that's coming out with the trailer that's like
The
constantly?
new is coming at and it just yeah. Like they're reshooting it now. It's like
Oh God.
it's like
Okay.
how is it even gonna like even feel like the same movie? Because you're probably reshooting it with different directors and different people involved. So it's like to have it, I don't know. It'll be a miracle if that movie ends up being good.
Right. Right.
Do you like any of those the super any of the MCU now?
Nope. Nope.
Because
I can't get into it. It's too much. And at this point, I feel like I'm too far behind to even remotely catch up. So I stay out of it. I stay to the non-associated. So that's why I like Joker because no
yeah.
connection. But yeah, no. And then The Substance is an incredible film this year.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. The
Yeah.
substance. I
I was
haven't
very upset. I was very upset because I became a fan. And then I realized that Demi and Margaret were at the SCAD Film Festival. Uh,
Oh yeah, they were. Yeah, I wasn't there when they
yeah.
like I came like that Thursday, and I think
Yep.
they were like on that like Monday. So did you see it there?
No, no. I wish I like I didn't.
Okay.
I was only a fan after I found out, or no, I was a fan and then I found out that they were even appearing, and the tickets were already sold at that point. So it was a little too late for me. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen that Q&A that they did, and uh, but yeah, The Substance is that's right up my alley. And then a film not a lot of people talk about this year, Blink Twice. I really enjoyed
I
Blink
haven't
Twice.
seen that yet. That's the one with Channing Tatum, right?
Yeah, Zoe Kravitz directed. It's her
Yeah.
first film. Yeah,
I
great.
think it's on Hulu now. I'm gonna definitely check that out.
Yeah, very
I,
intense.
I can't see. That's the unfortunate thing. It's like if I could be in two places at one time, like I'm trying to see that a real pain before it leaves, and it's like I
Right.
don't know if I'm gonna be able to get there. It's like I can't see everything.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're like me. I constantly think about that. It's
Yeah.
kind of hurts. It's like, yeah, you can't see every single thing that's ever like you'll
Yeah.
no one will ever do it. No one's
I
ever gonna
didn't.
see
Oh, I
everything.
know. If they're like, I wanted to see Blitz. I mean, I know it's now on Apple, but I was like, I prefer to see it in the theater the first time because it's more of a private place. I'm not going to do anything else. You can't stop the movie in a movie theater. Unless maybe you're The Rock, then maybe you would be like, stop the movie. I got to
Right,
go to the bathroom.
right.
Restart the movie. Did
Uh,
you um did you see Alien Romulus?
I did. Move on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Again,
It
similar
had
to Terminator, it's Alien and Aliens. Call it a day.
yeah, that's well, Alien, I feel like we haven't had anything good for like since the original ones. There's just been
Although I
nothing.
do I do remember liking Covenant when I first saw it.
Covenant has its moments. I like Covenant. It's just I feel like he doesn't know what movie he wants it to be. It's like, is this going to be a philosophical take about this character study, or you want this to be an action movie? And then it's like just
James Franco has a little cameo in there, and then he gets blasted off
yeah,
into space,
yeah.
which I think is what Hollywood's trying to do to him right now.
It's barely in that movie. Yeah. Um, how can people reach you?
Well, if you know my address, you can visit me in person, but I'm not giving it out here. So for anyone who doesn't know my address, you can find me on all the platforms except Blue Sky. I'm not on there, uh,
Mm.
although I probably will at some point. But yeah, it's at Eddie Greens 101 is where you can find me. And then the podcast, James Cameron 101, it's on all the platforms as well. So and then that's the podcast itself, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube.
All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate this.
No, this was fun. It's like I said before we started, it's I'm the host usually all the time, so it's always nice to let someone else take the reins and I don't have to worry or sweat, about the details. So
Agreed. Agreed. All right.